The hunt begins. The crimson suns of Zephyria cast long shadows across the alien landscape as Marcus Chun presses back against the rough bark of a crystalline tree. His breathing came in short, controlled bursts, each exhale visible in the thin atmosphere despite the heat radiating from the twin stars above. 3 days had passed since the transport ship carrying 200 human colonists had been forced down on this remote world, and already half their number lay dead. Marcus had been a wilderness survival instructor back on Earth, teaching corporate executives how to build fires and find water during weekend retreats. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for this nightmare. The aliens who had shot down their ship weren't interested in resources, territory, or even communication. They hunted humans for the pure thrill of it. The Kithara, as they called themselves, stood 9 feet tall on powerful digitigrade legs. Their obsidian skin reflected light like polished armor, and their 4 arms each ended in razor-sharp claws capable of slicing through steel. Most terrifying were their eyes, 6 compound orbs that could see across multiple spectrums, making hiding nearly impossible. They possessed technology that could level mountains, yet they chose to hunt their prey with primitive weapons, savoring every moment of the chase. A low harmonic hum echoed through the forest, the sound the Kithara made when they were closing in on prey. Marcus gripped the makeshift spear he had carved from a fallen branch. Its tip hardened in the flames of their crashed ship. Around him, the few surviving humans cowered in whatever shelter they could find. Sarah Martinez, the ship's medic, clutched her medical bag while tears streamed down her dirt-stained face. The 3 children from the colony group whimpered softly as their parents tried desperately to keep them quiet. The first hunt had been a massacre. The Kithara had appeared without warning, their sleek vessels descending from the sky like harbingers of death. Captain Reynolds had tried to negotiate, to understand what they wanted. The lead hunter had simply tilted his massive head and spoken in perfect English, his voice carrying the casual tone of someone discussing the weather. Your species has been chosen for the great hunt. You will run, we will pursue. Those who survive 7 solar cycles will be granted swift death instead of the slow dismemberment reserved for the captured. Reynolds had demanded to know why, what they had done to deserve this fate. The alien hunter had laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You have done nothing. That is precisely what makes this sport so pure. No vengeance, no politics, no resource disputes. Simply predator and prey as nature intended. The slaughter that followed had been methodical. The Kithara used energy weapons to wound rather than kill, preferring to track their bleeding quarry through the alien wilderness. They took photographs of their kills, collecting trophies like ancient Earth hunters mounting deer heads. Some humans they captured alive, dragging them back to their camp for prolonged entertainment. Marcus had managed to save a handful of survivors by leading them deeper into the crystalline forest, but he knew it was only delaying the inevitable. The Kithara technology could track them anywhere on the planet. Their thermal vision could spot a human heartbeat through solid rock. Their atmospheric analyzers could detect human pheromones from miles away. But Marcus had noticed something during their retreat. The aliens seemed to follow patterns, almost ritualistic behaviors that suggested this wasn't their first hunting expedition. They moved in formations, communicated through specific harmonic frequencies, and, most importantly, they had rules. The Kithara might be monsters, but they were organized monsters with a code. As another harmonic hum grew closer, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Instead of continuing to run, he began to study his hunters. He watched how they moved through the forest, noting their blind spots and communication patterns. When they stopped to feed on some local wildlife, he observed their eating habits and social hierarchy. Most crucially, he began to understand their concept of sport. The Kithara weren't just hunting humans. They were playing a game with specific rules and expectations. They wanted a challenging hunt, not a simple execution. This meant they might actually respect prey that fought back intelligently, that showed cunning and survival instincts worthy of their attention. That night, while the others slept fitfully in a cave hidden behind a waterfall, Marcus began planning. He couldn't save everyone, but he might be able to turn the tables on these cosmic hunters. The key was understanding that to them, this was all about the thrill of the hunt. They wanted worthy prey. Marcus Chun was about to give them exactly what they were looking for. The next morning brought new challenges as the group's water supply ran dangerously low. The twins, Jenny and Jake Morrison, were showing signs of dehydration, their lips cracking in the alien atmosphere. Their father, Tom, looked at Marcus with desperate eyes. "We can't keep running," Tom whispered. "The kids won't make it another day." Marcus studied the crystalline formations around their hiding spot. The minerals seemed to conduct sound differently than Earth rocks, creating acoustic anomalies that might be useful. He had an idea, but it would require splitting the group. "Sarah," he called to the medic, "how much medical equipment do you have left?" "Enough for basic first aid. Why?" "Because we're going to need bait." The plan Marcus outlined was dangerous and required precise timing. They would use Sarah's medical knowledge to create a false blood trail using their own blood mixed with local plant saps that had similar thermal properties. Meanwhile, Tom would take the children and the 3 remaining adult survivors to a secondary hiding spot near the planet's northern ice fields, where the extreme cold might interfere with Kithra thermal tracking. "What about you?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. "Someone needs to lead them away from the others. Someone who knows how to survive in hostile territory." As they prepared to split up, Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. These people trusted him to get them out alive, but he was just a weekend survival instructor who taught suburban office workers how to start campfires. Yet something inside him had changed during these days of constant fear. The civilized veneer of modern human life had been stripped away, revealing something more primal underneath. The Kithra had awakened something in Marcus Chun that even he didn't fully understand yet. They had made the mistake of thinking humans were just another species to be hunted for sport. They were about to learn that some prey bite back. As the group prepared to separate, each knowing they might never see the others again, Marcus made a silent promise. The aliens wanted a great hunt. He would give them one they would never forget. The student was about to become the teacher, and the lesson would be written in Kithra blood. The harmonic hums were getting closer. The first lesson. Marcus waited until the binary stars reached their zenith before beginning his deception. Using Sarah's medical supplies, he mixed his own blood with the phosphorescent sap from the crystal trees, creating a trail that would glow brightly on Kithra thermal scanners. The mixture had to be perfect. Too much blood, and he would weaken himself. Too little, and the aliens might see through his ruse. The false trail led away from where Tom had taken the children, winding through the densest part of the crystalline forest where the mineral formations created natural acoustic chambers. Marcus had spent hours mapping these chambers, discovering that sound behaved strangely among the crystal structures. Voices could be amplified, distorted, or even thrown in completely different directions. It didn't take long for the Kithra to find his trail. The harmonic hums grew stronger as 3 hunters converged on his position. Marcus crouched behind a cluster of crystal spires, watching as the aliens examined his false blood trail with scientific interest. Their leader, distinguished by ritual scarring across his obsidian hide, knelt and tasted the mixture with a serpentine tongue. The alien's reaction surprised Marcus. Instead of anger at the deception, the hunter made what could only be described as a pleased, rumbling sound. He spoke to his companions in their native language, a series of harmonic tones that seemed to convey approval rather than frustration. "Clever little prey," the leader said in English, apparently for Marcus's benefit. "You learn quickly. This is good. A hunt without intelligence is merely slaughter, and slaughter grows tedious." Marcus remained perfectly still as the 3 aliens spread out, beginning their search pattern. These weren't mindless killers. They were professionals who appreciated cunning in their prey. This revelation changed Marcus's entire strategy. The Kithra didn't want easy kills. They wanted a challenge worthy of their skills. As the hunters moved deeper into the crystal formations, Marcus put the first phase of his plan into action. He had spent the previous night carving specific shapes into the crystal surfaces at calculated angles. When he struck them with his hardened spear tip in the correct sequence, the sound reverberated through the crystal matrix like a stone thrown into still water. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The crystal formations began to sing, producing harmonic frequencies that interfered with the Kithra's natural echolocation abilities. Their confident hunting formation faltered as their sensory input became scrambled. For the first time since the hunt began, the predators were at a disadvantage. Marcus used the confusion to his advantage, moving silently through passages he had memorized while the aliens struggled with their disoriented senses. But he wasn't running. He was positioning himself for the next phase of his plan. The leader of the hunting party was named Vexthal, and he had participated in over 50 great hunts across dozens of worlds. He had pursued everything from the crystalline wind dancers of Arcturus Prime to the phase-shifting wraiths of the void reaches. In all his centuries of hunting, he had never encountered prey that actively tried to turn the environment against him. The human's acoustic trap had been rudimentary, but effective, showing an understanding of the crystal forest properties that should have taken weeks to develop. More intriguing was the implication behind the attack. This human wasn't just trying to escape, he was trying to fight back. Zekmor, Vexthal called to his second-in-command. What do you make of this tactic? The younger hunter's mandibles clicked in confusion. The prey seeks to disorient us, but to what end? It cannot escape the planet. Our ships monitor every possible exit. Perhaps escape is not its goal, Vexthal mused. Perhaps this human seeks to elevate the quality of our hunt. The third member of their party, a scarred veteran named Krull, laughed harshly. You give this soft skin too much credit, Vexthal. It is merely animal cunning, nothing more. But Vexthal wasn't convinced. In his experience, truly desperate prey either cowered or charged blindly. This human was doing neither. It was thinking, planning, adapting. Such behavior was rare enough to be noteworthy, valuable enough to be preserved and studied. As the acoustic interference faded, the hunters began tracking their quarry through more conventional means. Blood traces, disturbed vegetation, and the faint chemical signature that all humans carried. But with each step, Vexthal became more certain that they were walking into another trap. He was right. Marcus had used the time gained from his acoustic deception to set up a more direct confrontation. Hidden in a natural amphitheater formed by towering crystal spires, he had arranged several surprises for his pursuers. The first was simple, but effective. He had wedged sharpened crystal shards between rock formations at precise angles, creating a deadly obstacle course that would activate when the supporting stones were disturbed. But the real trap wasn't physical, it was psychological. As the three Kithra entered the amphitheater, Marcus made his first direct contact with his hunters. Instead of hiding, he stood openly on a crystal outcropping above them, silhouetted against the binary suns. You want to hunt? Marcus called down to them. Then, let's hunt. He hurled his spear, not at the aliens, but at a specific crystal formation he had prepared. The impact triggered a cascade effect, sending razor-sharp crystal shards raining down on the hunters below. The aliens dodged easily. Marcus had expected that. What they didn't expect was for the falling crystals to trigger secondary collapses, cutting off 2 of the 3 exit routes from the amphitheater. Vexthal looked up at the human with something approaching respect. You seek to trap us? Bold but futile. We can simply climb out. Can you? Marcus asked and triggered the second phase. He had spent precious hours the night before weakening key crystal supports throughout the amphitheater. Now, as the Kithra began to climb, their weight and movement caused critical structural failures. What had seemed like solid handholds crumbled under their grasp, sending the aliens tumbling back to the amphitheater floor. For the first time since the hunt began, the predators found themselves truly trapped. But Marcus wasn't finished. As the aliens regrouped, searching for an escape route, he began the most dangerous part of his plan. Instead of fleeing while he had the advantage, he dropped down into the amphitheater with them. You want to hunt? He said, picking up a crystal shard to use as a weapon. Then, hunt me properly. Krull snarled and raised his ceremonial hunting blade, but Vexthal stopped him with a gesture. The hunt leader was staring at the human with undisguised fascination. You would face us in direct combat? You must know this ends only one way. Marcus grinned, and for the first time in days, he felt truly alive. Maybe, but I've taught you something, haven't I? I've shown you that humans aren't just prey. We're survivors. We adapt. We fight back. And what do you hope to gain from this demonstration? Respect, Marcus said simply. And a better game. The 3 Kithra exchanged glances, communicating in rapid harmonic bursts. Finally, Vexthal nodded slowly. You speak of games, human. Very well. If you can wound even one of us in honorable combat, we will grant you something unprecedented in the history of the Great Hunt, which is a chance to become the hunter instead of the hunted. Marcus felt his heart racing as he realized the implications. This was bigger than just his own survival. This was an opportunity to change the rules entirely. The aliens weren't just impressed by his tactics. They were intrigued by the possibility of a real challenge. As the first Kithra warrior stepped forward to face him, Marcus Chun prepared to fight for more than just his life. He was fighting for the future of every human who might face these cosmic hunters. The student was about to graduate, and the final exam would be written in blood and crystal beneath the alien suns of Zephyria. Hashtag the Dance of Blades. Kroldeath stepped into the center of the crystal amphitheater, his four arms moving in a ritualistic pattern as he drew his weapons. Two curved blades materialized from sheaths built into his forearms, while his lower hands produced a pair of weighted chains ending in crystalline spikes. The scarred hunter had killed over 300 sentient beings across 40 worlds, and his collection of trophies was legendary among the Kithra. Marcus held only a jagged piece of crystal, roughly shaped into a crude knife. By every measure, he should have died within seconds. But as Kroldeath began his assault, something extraordinary happened. Marcus didn't fight like prey. The first swing of the alien's blade should have removed Marcus's head from his shoulders. Instead, the human ducked low and rolled between Kroldeath's legs, using his smaller size and the alien's own momentum against him. As he passed beneath the towering hunter, Marcus dragged his crystal blade across the back of Kroldeath's left ankle, finding the gap between armor plates that his careful observation had revealed. Kroldeath roared in surprise and pain as golden blood sprayed across the crystal floor. No prey had ever landed the first blow in combat. In his shock, he stumbled, giving Marcus the opening he needed to put distance between them and reassess the situation. Vexthal watched the exchange with growing excitement. His compound eyes tracked every movement as the human evaded Kroldeath's increasingly frantic attacks. The human fought like no creature they had ever hunted before, not with the desperate fury of cornered prey, but with the calculated precision of a fellow predator. Impossible, c'est mort breted. How does it move like that? Study it, Vexthal commanded. This is not random evasion. The human has analyzed Kroldeath's fighting patterns and is exploiting weaknesses. Indeed, Marcus had spent the first few exchanges mapping his opponent's rhythm. Kroldeath was powerful and experienced, but he fought with the arrogance of someone who had never faced real resistance. His attacks followed predictable patterns, and his forearm style, while intimidating, actually created vulnerabilities that a smaller opponent could exploit. As Kroldeath charged again, Marcus didn't retreat. Instead, he stepped forward into the alien's guard, too close for the longer weapons to be effective. The crystal knife found another gap in the armor, this time between shoulder plates. Kroldeath's upper left arm went partially numb as Marcus severed a nerve cluster. The dynamic of the fight had completely reversed. Now it was Kroldeath who was desperate, swinging wildly as Marcus stayed inside his reach, using the alien's own bulk as a shield against the other weapons. Each time Kroldeath tried to back away and use his reach advantage, Marcus pressed forward, never giving him the space to properly deploy his superior armaments. But Marcus knew he couldn't keep this up indefinitely. He was already bleeding from several shallow cuts, and his improvised weapon was starting to crack under the stress of combat. He needed to end this quickly, and there was only one way to do it. As Kroldeath made another overhead strike with both upper arms, Marcus dropped to the ground and swept the alien's legs. As a massive hunter fell backward, Marcus leaped onto his chest and drove the crystal blade down with all his strength, aiming for the weak point he had identified at the base of the alien's throat. The blade shattered against Kroldeath's natural armor, but not before opening a significant wound. Golden blood poured from the injury as the alien thrashed beneath Marcus's weight. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, predator and prey stared into each other's eyes. Then Marcus rolled away, clutching the largest shard of his broken weapon, and waited. Kroldeath slowly sat up, one hand pressed to his bleeding throat. The wound wasn't fatal, but it was undeniably real. He looked down at his golden blood staining the crystal floor, then back at the human who had accomplished the impossible. "I am wounded," he said in amazement. "Actually wounded. In honorable combat." Vexthal stepped forward, his own excitement barely contained. In over 3 centuries of great hunts, he had never seen anything like this. The human had not only survived against a seasoned hunter, but had actually drawn blood, not through trickery or environmental manipulation, but in direct combat. Marcus Chun of Earth, Vexthul said formally, "You have earned something no prey has ever achieved. You have proven yourself worthy of respect." Marcus struggled to his feet, swaying from exhaustion and blood loss. "Does that mean you'll let the others go?" "No," Vexthul replied, but his tone had changed completely. "But it means we offer you a choice that has never been offered before. Join us." "What?" "The Great Hunt is sacred to our people, but it has grown stale over the centuries. We hunt cattle, not equals. You have shown us what we have been missing, the thrill of facing truly worthy prey. But more than that, you have shown the potential to become a worthy hunter yourself." Zekmore stepped forward, his mandibles clicking in protest. "Vexthul, surely you cannot be serious. A human? In the Great Hunt? Look at him, Zekmore. Study how he fought. This creature turned our greatest hunter into the hunted using nothing but intelligence, observation, and raw determination. He analyzed our patterns, exploited our weaknesses, and adapted his tactics in real time. These are not the traits of prey. These are the marks of an apex predator." Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This wasn't just about his own survival anymore. The aliens were offering him something unprecedented, but at what cost? "What would joining you mean?" he asked carefully. "You would be trained in our ways, given our technology, taught the arts of the hunt as they have been passed down for millennia. In return, you would participate in future great hunts as our equal, not as prey. And my people, the survivors." Vexthul's expression grew more complex. "They will be spared this particular hunt, yes, but only if you prove yourself worthy of the honor we offer. One trial remains, which is, you must track and capture one of your own kind without killing them. You must demonstrate that you can hunt as we hunt, with skill and precision rather than mere brutality. Only then will you have earned your place among us." The choice before Marcus was impossible. Accept, and he might save the remaining survivors, but he would become the very thing that had hunted them. Refuse, and everyone would die, including himself. But as he looked at the 3 aliens watching him with something approaching respect, Marcus realized there might be a third option. If he could become their equal, if he could earn their trust and learn their ways, he might be able to do more than just save a handful of colonists. He might be able to end the Great Hunt forever. "I accept," Marcus said, "but I have conditions." Vexthul tilted his massive head. "Prey does not negotiate with hunters. I'm not prey anymore, remember? You said so yourself. I'm a potential equal, and equals negotiate." For a long moment, the ancient predator stared at the bloodied human. Then, for the first time in Marcus's presence, Vexthul laughed. Not the harsh grinding sound he had made before, but something that might have passed for genuine amusement. "Very well, Marcus Chun. State your terms." As Marcus began to outline his conditions, he felt the fundamental nature of the situation shifting beneath his feet. He was no longer fighting for survival. He was negotiating the future of human-Kithra relations. The student had become the teacher, and now he was about to become something else entirely. The hunt was far from over, but the roles were about to change in ways none of them could imagine. Hashtag the Hunter's Gambit. 3 days had passed since Marcus accepted Vexthul's offer, and the transformation had been remarkable. The Kithra had provided him with their basic hunting gear, a suit of adaptive armor that shifted color to match his surroundings, energy weapons calibrated for non-lethal capture, and, most importantly, access to their advanced tracking technology. But Marcus had insisted on one crucial modification to their trial. Instead of hunting any random human survivor, he would track down Tom Morrison and the children, not to capture them for the aliens, but to demonstrate that humans could master Kithra hunting techniques while maintaining their own moral code. Vexthul had initially resisted this condition, seeing it as a fundamental contradiction of the hunting paradigm. How could one hunt without the intent to capture or kill? But Marcus had convinced him that this was precisely what made humans unique as potential hunters. They could separate the skill from the savagery. Now, As Marcus crouched on a crystalline ridge overlooking the northern ice fields where Tom had taken the children, he felt the weight of multiple deceptions pressing down on him. The Kithara believed he was proving his worth as a hunter. Tom and the children thought he had abandoned them to save himself. Neither group understood his true plan. Through the advanced optical enhancement built into his new armor, Marcus could see the small camp Tom had established in a natural ice cave. The thermal shielding was crude, but effective. Without Kithara technology, the survivors would have been nearly invisible against the frozen landscape. Marcus could see Tom moving carefully around the camp, checking on the 3 children who huddled together for warmth. The sight filled Marcus with determination. These people had trusted him to keep them alive, and he intended to honor that trust, just not in the way they expected. Marcus activated his communication device, sending a signal back to Vexthal's hunting party. I have located the targets. Beginning approach. Excellent, came the alien's voice through the comm. Remember, Marcus Chun, this is not merely about demonstrating technique. You must prove that you can embrace the hunter's mindset. Sentiment toward your former packmates will only handicap your performance. Understood, Marcus replied, while privately thinking that Vexthal was about to learn something important about human nature. The approach to Tom's camp required every skill Marcus had learned during his crash course in Kithara hunting techniques. The ice fields presented unique challenges. The reflective surface could give away his position, while the extreme cold made it difficult to mask his thermal signature. But the alien technology compensated for these problems, allowing him to move like a ghost across the frozen wasteland. As he drew closer to the camp, Marcus could hear Tom talking quietly to the children, trying to keep their spirits up with stories about what they would do when they were rescued. The man had no way of knowing that no rescue was coming, that Earth believed their colony ship had been lost to a navigation error, and that it would be months before anyone even began looking for them. Marcus paused at the entrance to the ice cave, feeling the full weight of what he was about to do. In the next few minutes, he would either save these people or destroy their last hope forever. There was no middle ground. He stepped into the cave. Tom Morrison spun around at the sound of footsteps, his improvised spear raised defensively. When he saw Marcus in the alien armor, his face went through a rapid series of emotions. Relief, confusion, and, finally, horror as he understood what he was looking at. "My God, Marcus," Tom whispered. "What have you done?" "What I had to do to keep you alive," Marcus replied. "But I need you to trust me one more time." "Trust you? You're working with them now. You're wearing their equipment." The 3 children, Jenny, Jake, and little Susan Caldwell, cowered behind Tom as he brandished his pathetic weapon. Marcus could see the fear in their eyes, the same terror they had shown when the Kithara first attacked their ship. Only now, that fear was directed at him. "Tom, listen to me very carefully," Marcus said, keeping his hands visible and non-threatening despite the alien weapons he carried. "The Kithara don't just hunt randomly. They have rules, codes, traditions. I've learned how to use those against them. By joining them, by becoming one of them, by making them believe I've joined them. There's a difference." Marcus quickly outlined his plan, watching as Tom's expression shifted from disgust to disbelief to cautious hope. The children listened with wide eyes as Marcus explained how he intended to turn the Kithara's own traditions against them. "It's insane," Tom said when Marcus finished. "You're asking me to trust our lives to alien honor codes that you've known about for 3 days. Do you have a better plan? Because in about 10 minutes, Vexthal and his hunters are going to come looking for me. They expect me to have captured all of you by then." Tom looked at the children, then back at Marcus. "And if you're wrong? If I don't keep their word? Then we all die anyway. But if I'm right, we don't just escape, we end this for everyone." The sound of approaching aircraft filled the cave as the Kithara hunting party arrived to observe Marcus's trial. Tom made his decision, gathering the children close and nodding grimly at Marcus. "What do you need us to do?" Marcus activated his external communicator so that Vexthal could hear everything. "Tom Morrison," he said in a voice that carried new authority. "You and the younglings will come with me now. Resistance will result in pain." Tom played his part perfectly, showing just enough defiance to make it believable, while ultimately submitting to Marcus's superior equipment and training. The children whimpered convincingly as Marcus herded them out of the cave toward the waiting Kithara aircraft. Vexthal watched the proceedings with obvious satisfaction. Well done, Marcus Chun. You have demonstrated proper hunting technique and maintained control of your emotional responses. The transition from prey to hunter is complete. Not quite, Marcus said, and activated a device he had concealed in his armor. The device was one he had built during his 3 days of training, using components taken from various Kithra systems. It broadcast a very specific signal, one that identified him as the leader of this particular hunting party according to Kithra protocols. Suddenly, every piece of Kithra technology in the area recognized Marcus as having higher authority than Vexthul himself. The alien hunter realized what had happened just as his own weapons and equipment powered down in response to Marcus's override signal. Impossible, Vexthul breted. How did you? I observed. Marcus said simply. I learned. I adapted, just like you taught me. The hierarchy protocols in your technology respond to whoever carries the primary command frequency. You gave me access to your systems to prove I could hunt like you. I used that access to promote myself above you in the chain of command. Zekmore and Kruldeath moved to flank Marcus, but their weapons remained inert. The human had used their own technology to render them effectively helpless. You understand, Vexthul said slowly, that this makes you responsible for our actions? As pack leader, our conduct reflects on your honor. I understand perfectly, which is why I'm officially ending this hunt. Ending it? You cannot simply end a great hunt. There are protocols, traditions, and, as the new pack leader, I'm invoking the right of substitution. Instead of hunting humans, we're going to hunt something much more challenging. Marcus gestured toward the horizon, where the twin suns were setting behind a range of volcanic mountains. Those peaks are home to something the locals call crystal dragons. They're apex predators that have never been successfully hunted by any off-world species. If you want a real challenge, if you want to prove your worth as hunters, that's your target. For a long moment, the three Kithra stared at Marcus in stunned silence. Then Vexthul began to laugh, the genuine sound of amusement Marcus had heard before, but louder and longer. Crystal dragons, the alien mused. Creatures of pure energy that can phase through solid matter at will. Predators so advanced that they hunt other predators for sport. He looked at Marcus with something approaching admiration. You magnificent creature. You have done more than demonstrate hunting prowess. You have elevated the entire concept of the great hunt. So you accept the substitution? Accept it? Marcus Chun, you have given us the greatest gift imaginable, a hunt worthy of our abilities. The crystal dragons will provide sport that could last for months, possibly years. This is far superior to the brief entertainment your colonists would have provided. As the Kithra began making preparations for their new hunt, Marcus felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. He had saved the immediate survivors, but he had also set a dangerous precedent. The aliens now saw him as their equal, possibly their superior. They expected him to continue leading hunts, to help them find ever more challenging prey. But Marcus Chun was already thinking several steps ahead. If he could maintain his position in the Kithra hierarchy, if he could earn their complete trust, he might be able to do more than just redirect individual hunts. He might be able to transform the entire species from cosmic predators into something resembling protectors. The game was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Hashtag the new hunt master 6 months had passed since Marcus Chun first donned Kithra armor, and the transformation was complete in ways that even he hadn't anticipated. The crystal dragon hunt had lasted for weeks, pushing the alien hunters to their absolute limits. 3 of the energy beings had been successfully tracked and studied before being released unharmed. A concept Marcus had introduced that the Kithra initially found baffling, but eventually embraced as the ultimate demonstration of hunting superiority. Now, Marcus stood on the bridge of the hunting vessel Apex Predator, watching as they approached the 4th world on their circuit. But this wasn't a hunting expedition in the traditional sense. Word had spread through Kithra society about the human who had revolutionized the Great Hunt, and requests for his services were coming from hunting parties across the galaxy. Huntmaster Chun, Vexthul said, approaching with what had become his customary deference. The title was one Marcus had earned through a series of increasingly spectacular hunts that had redefined what the Kithra considered worthy sport. The planetary survey is complete. The indigenous species shows promise. Marcus studied the holographic display, showing the world below. The inhabitants were a species of aquatic beings who had developed a sophisticated civilization beneath their planet's vast oceans. According to the Kythera analysis, they possessed advanced biotechnology and had never encountered off-world species. What makes them interesting as prey? Marcus asked, though he already suspected the answer would disturb him. They are completely pacifistic, Zekmore replied with enthusiasm. No weapons, no military, no concept of violence between sapient beings. The terror and confusion when we begin the hunt will be exquisite. Marcus felt his jaw tighten, but he maintained his calm exterior. Over the past months, he had learned to hide his revulsion at such statements while working to gradually change Kythera attitudes from within. It was a delicate process that required patience and subtlety. Interesting, Marcus said neutrally. But consider this. What sport is there in hunting creatures who cannot comprehend that they are being hunted? Where is the challenge in pursuing prey that doesn't even understand the concept of predation? The assembled Kythera exchanged glances. This was the kind of perspective that had made Marcus so valuable to them. He could identify the flaws in potential hunts that they might not see until it was too late. Perhaps, Vexthul suggested, we could educate them first, teach them about hunting so they can provide proper sport. That could work, Marcus agreed. But I have a better idea. Instead of hunting these beings, what if we protected them from something else? Kruldeath, who had become Marcus's most devoted follower after their combat in the Crystal Amphitheater, leaned forward with interest. Explain. Marcus called up additional data on his display. Long-range scans show evidence of an approaching threat. A species of spaceborne parasites that consume entire biospheres. They'll reach this world in approximately 30 standard cycles. The parasites Marcus referred to were known as the Devourers, a plague that had destroyed countless worlds across the galaxy. They were creatures of pure hunger, consuming not just organic matter, but the fundamental life energy of entire planets. Most civilizations simply evacuated when the Devourers approached, writing off infected worlds as total losses. You propose we hunt the Devourers? Vexthul asked with growing excitement. I propose we hunt them while simultaneously protecting an innocent civilization. Think about it. We would be predators defending prey from other predators. The complexity of the tactical situation would be unprecedented. We would have to demonstrate not just hunting prowess, but strategic thinking, coordination, and precise application of force. The more Marcus outlined his proposal, the more enthusiastic the Kythera became. This wasn't just a hunt. It was a complete paradigm shift that would test every aspect of their abilities while serving a purpose beyond mere sport. But, Zekmore pointed out, if we succeed in protecting these aquatic beings, what do we gain? There would be no trophies, no demonstration of dominance over the prey species. Marcus smiled. We would gain something far more valuable. We would prove that we are the apex predators in this galaxy. Not just capable of hunting prey, but capable of hunting other hunters. We would establish ourselves as the ultimate arbiters of who lives and who dies. The concept appealed to the Kythera on a level that Marcus had learned to understand and manipulate. They weren't just hunters. They were apex predators who needed to constantly prove their dominance. By framing protection as a form of hunting, Marcus had found a way to redirect their predatory instincts toward constructive purposes. Within hours, the apex predator was broadcasting warnings to the aquatic civilization below, informing them of the approaching threat and offering protection. The response was immediate. The gentle beings were terrified by the prospect of the Devourers, but grateful for the unexpected offer of help. As the Kythera fleet prepared for the arrival of the Devourers, Marcus found himself in his private quarters, composing a message that he hoped would never need to be sent. If his plan failed, if the Kythera discovered his true intentions, this message would be broadcast to every human colony in known space. The message was simple. The hunt has been turned. Humanity is no longer prey. We are the hunters now. The battle against the Devourers lasted for 6 brutal days. The creatures arrived in vast swarms, each individual the size of a small spacecraft, and capable of phasing through conventional matter. They descended on the ocean world like a living plague, only to encounter something they had never faced before: organized resistance. Under Marcus's direction, the Kithara fought with a precision and coordination that surprised even themselves. They used their hunting instincts not to terrorize helpless prey, but to systematically eliminate a threat that had plagued the galaxy for millennia. When individual devourers tried to reach the planet's surface, they found themselves caught in carefully planned traps and ambushes. Marcus himself took part in the fighting, using human tactical concepts that the Kithara had never encountered. His ability to think in 3 dimensions while considering multiple variables simultaneously made him invaluable in coordinating the fleet's movements. By the end of the 6th day, the Devourer swarm had been completely eliminated. Not a single parasite had reached the planet's surface. The aquatic civilization was safe, and the Kithara had achieved the most challenging hunt in their species' history. As they stood on the bridge watching the last Devourer corpses drift through space, Vexthul turned to Marcus with something approaching reverence. "Huntmaster Chun," he said formally, "you have elevated our entire species today. We are no longer mere hunters. We are guardians of civilization itself." "And that," Marcus replied, "is exactly what I hoped you would realize." The implications of their victory were staggering. Word spread quickly through Kithara society about the new form of hunting their species had discovered. Protecting weaker civilizations from cosmic threats became the ultimate demonstration of predatory superiority. Hunting parties across the galaxy began requesting similar missions. Within a year, the Kithara had transformed from cosmic predators into an interstellar peacekeeping force. They still hunted, but now they hunted threats to civilization rather than civilization itself. The Great Hunt continued, but its targets had become the real monsters of the galaxy. Marcus Chun had accomplished something that would have seemed impossible 6 months earlier. He had taken a species of apex predators and convinced them that the greatest hunt of all was protecting those too weak to protect themselves. The student had become the teacher. The prey had become the hunter. And the hunter had become something entirely new, a guardian who ensured that the strong protected the weak rather than preying upon them. As the apex predator set course for their next mission, Marcus looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, Tom Morrison and the children were living safely in a human colony, never knowing that their survival had sparked a transformation that would reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. The hunt would continue, but now, for the first time in cosmic history, the monsters would be the ones being hunted. Marcus Chun had turned the tables on an entire species, and in doing so, he had made the universe a safer place for everyone.